Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water. A closer look at agriculture in South Carolina and conversations between the current and future leaders of the Palmetto State's largest industry. Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water is a production of the student media team at the South Carolina Governor's School for Agriculture at John De La Howe.
And now, here are your hosts, Dell Brockman and Hagan Giles.
Welcome to this edition of Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water. My name is Dell Brockman, and today I'm joined by co-host Hagan Giles. My guest today is Brandon DuRANT of American Forest Management, with roots dating back to 1966. America's Forest Management is one of the country's leading land management and forestry consulting companies. They manage more than 5.7 million acres of land across the Southeast, the Gulf Coast, the Pacific Northwest, and up the road in Appalachia. Today, Mr. DuRANT is on campus meeting with our farm team about forestry management at John De La Howe. Thank you for visiting with me today.
It was my pleasure. Glad to be here, Dell.
So, describe a little bit what your company does and why its services are important to natural resource management in South Carolina.
So American Forest Management has some great roots in natural resources dating back, like you said, to 1966. So, we feel it is incredibly important that we watch over our country's natural resources so that way they are preserved for many years to come through practicing great sustainability in forestry, agriculture, and even our wildlife management of the different properties we have taken care of.
So, you're a farmland services manager for the American Forest Management. What are your specific duties to that role?
So my job at AFM, like you said, is a farmland services manager. We take care of over 25,000 acres worth of farmland in multiple different states throughout the Southeast, as well as we have a precision agriculture-based business that we soil sample and provide agronomic recommendations to over 13,000 acres of land, as well as our newly started acquisition and due diligence business of helping private equity groups, institutions, high net worth individuals, and private landowners as well invest funds into the agriculture sector in the Southeast. We also manage various different crops, from your traditional row crops all the way to specialty crops like blueberries, strawberries, and even commercial sod.
So how did you get your start with the AFM?
So in December of 2018, AFM was looking for some assistance in the farmland management world, and so I had a meeting with them, and we sat down and came up with our farmland services group, and I was very blessed that I was offered the job to help them, and it evolved from working with a private group that had about 12,000 acres, and we've continued to grow and get to where we are today. So it's been a real blessing to get to where we are through that.
So, one of your company's specialties is reforestation. How does that process, how does it work? And is it unique for every piece of land?
It is unique to every piece of property, because not every piece of property is equal to one another. So it first starts off by meeting with the landowner and understanding their goals and objectives and what they want to accomplish through the reforestation process, and also understanding what kind of land use they're on, because that may vary as to what type of species of tree would be better suited to their site. So when we're evaluating reforestation, we're looking at the different vegetation that is regrown after a timber harvest has been conducted. So it could be a chemical site prep to mechanical work that needs to be done, maybe some prescribed burning, and then actually planting the trees, whether it is mechanically or by hand. So a lot of different aspects that goes into it.
All right. And planting the trees, how do y'all go about that mechanically?
Mechanically, so if it is a mechanical planting, so it may be either a smaller bulldozer pulling a machine planter, or it could be a tractor that is pulling the equipment behind it, just depending on the terrain.
Okay.
So, a major part right now is conservation, preservation of our farmland, because every day we're losing more and more of our land. So can you explain to me how the American Forest Management helps with conservation easements?
Absolutely. So AFM, we work with private landowners primarily, helping them to understand the uses of what a conservation easement can do for their property and how does it benefit them. But the first step in that, Dell, is understanding their goals and objectives. Like what is the purpose behind your conservation easement? What do you want to look at doing with it? How does it benefit the property as a whole? So we work with the land trust group that works or in that particular area surrounding that piece of property to help them look at, what are the historical aspects of the property? What are the different tangible assets that make this a worthy conservation easement to present to the South Carolina Conservation Bank or the Conservation Bank in that particular state. And we will help draft that conservation easement document along with that particular land trust, as well as coordinate for a phase 1 environmental assessment, the different benchmark tests that have to be done, as well as, representing that landowner to the board in the easement process.
So at AFM, you definitely deal with a lot of like land management stuff like that. So I mean, is that like, because I know you're the farmland service manager, is that like a lot of what you do, or do you have a different department for that, or how does land trust and conservation easements work?
So primarily right now, it has been falling into my territory on the farmland side, but we do have an environmental services group that can also help in that as well.
So I mean, I know you work for the AFM, but where does the farmland come into that aspect of it? Because I mean, when you think of forest, you don't necessarily think of like farmland.
That was something early on, Dell, when we started this, that I had a bit of an issue with name recognition on the ag side of it. So we actually created a standalone subsidiary called AFM Ag Services. And so it is primarily for marketing for us. So that way we can kind of differentiate the ag side from the forestry. So that way when we're talking with different groups, you see that name, even though we are totally under the umbrella of AFM.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, one aspect of your company's business is like real estate sales and stuff like that. So, I mean, do you do a lot of that farmland sales, or like, I guess, sell maybe even like conservation easement land? Is that like a lot of what you do?
So I don't do a tremendous amount in the real estate world right now. It is an area that we are growing into. So I mentioned earlier about our new acquisition and due diligence business that we started. So we are looking to help different groups, primarily private equity and investment groups that would like to purchase farmland in the Southeast, help them get into the region. So we're looking at their various rates of returns, their capitalization rates, and then also looking at the farm itself and evaluating the property to say, hey, is this tract worthy of investing in? Does it give us the necessary monetary return back for us to purchase this? As well as you mentioned the conservation easements, also looking at alternative revenues for the property, whether it's conservation easement, solar lease, could be a hunting lease off of the property. So trying to evaluate and take a holistic approach to the entire property itself.
So you have biologists on your team that focus on wildlife management, especially in endangered species. How does that work?
So we've got various different wildlife biologists throughout the company and throughout the U.S. that work with landowners from, whether it's wildlife, like endangered species, to, white-tailed deer, turkeys, whatever your flavor may be, to help make improvements to the property to benefit the wildlife. So could be various different aspects of the management.
So, I mean, another major part of like farmland management stuff is like soil health and runoffs and stuff like that. So do you do a lot with that?
So one component of our business that is a precision ag soil sampling an agronomic recommendation business that we started about 4 years ago that helps primarily farmers look at, what do you have in the ground from a fertility standpoint? What are your yield goals for the property? What is the soil currently giving you? And then what can we do to enhance it from there? So whether that is, applying poultry litter or commercial fertilizer, or do we just need to do some different things to help increase soil tilth and build up the organic matter out there to make it more productive? So we work on about 13,000 acres annually with different landowners, helping them with that particular service.
Wow, that's good acres right there.
We cover a lot.
So what is regenerative ag methods, and how can that help?
So that's a broad term right now, regenerative agriculture. So looking at things that make improvements and building up the quality of the soil using more, I guess the right term would be conventional methods. So things like your cover crops, looking at ways to reduce the amount of pesticides applied to the property, and using kind of holistic, more natural approaches to different insect pressures, fertility needs, and then soil quality of the property. It is something that we will look at and assess and help a landowner who has goals and objectives focused in on that. We'll look at the different various current practices that are being done on the farm, and then look at some different regenerative ag practices that could be done, and see that the two meet and relate, and actually make some improvements to the farm and make those recommendations for those landowners.
Absolutely. So, as a farmland services manager, what does the day-to-day work look like for you?
So day-to-day varies throughout the year. So if you take an entire year and you look at our work, the first quarter of the year, we're primarily focused on the different projects and the different budgeted items that our clients have, and we try to attack that and really make that our priority through about March of the year to get all those objectives done and capital improvement projects completed before before planting actually takes place. So that way we're out of the field, we're out of the way of the farmers, so they can do their work. Second quarter of the year, we're really looking at our property, seeing what crops are being grown, where are they going to be located, and kind of getting some of those minor detail items, so that way when we get towards the end of our year and we're writing our annual reports for our clients, we can kind of give them everything mapped out and they know where everything has been at. The third quarter of the year is starting to look at operations of the farms. So starting to look at our crop leases that we've got. If there's any farm leases that need to be renewed, need to be rewritten, any items there from an operations standpoint that need to be taken care of, we do that. We're kind of getting into our early soil sampling season, especially for landowners who want to plant wheat that coming year. We will start getting on those acres first and sampling and giving back the recommendations for those. Then as we get into the fourth quarter, we're really starting to look at next year. We're starting to look at what are the needs of that farm going into the next year. What are some repairs that we've had to hold off on that we couldn't do because a crop was in the field, or what are just budgetary items that we need to start building and moving towards the next year. We're still soil sampling. We go all the way through about Christmas is when we kind of cut off that particular business, so that way we give our farmers enough time to get lime applied, because it generally takes about 3 months to activate in the soil, so that way those guys can get ahead of that. So generally in a year it's pretty full, Dell.
So, obviously y'all are a national company. So how many people, ballpark estimate, how many people do y'all currently employ?
So American Forest Management as a whole has roughly 350 to 400 employees across the United States. So that's between Maine, the Southeast, our offices in Michigan, and then Pacific Northwest.
So you're an accredited farm manager. What does that mean?
So the accredited farm manager designation, Hagan, is something that is an award that's given out by the American Society of Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers to folks who have gone through a rigorous course, interview process, as well as shown educational background in the world of farm management and agriculture. So to get the accreditation, there's 4 courses you have to go through. Then there's a phone interview. You have to write a full farm plan for a piece of property, and then you have to have a minimum of 4 years experience in farmland management to receive the designation. It is a great honor, and it's something I would encourage anybody who is in agriculture and farmland management to go pursue.
That's awesome. What's the farm plan? What's that involve?
So a farm plan is a very comprehensive plan that looks holistically at the entire piece of property as to what the current needs are, future needs, as well as financials of the property to show how viable is it from a return standpoint, as well as, what are all the crops that are grown on it, where is everything located, like center pivots or other irrigation equipment as an example, and just kind of gives you an overall view of the piece of property.
Okay. So it sounds like a lot of hard work and dedication that you have to put into your work.
It is, and it's very rewarding. It's very rewarding when you get to start with something and see how your work is really paying off and making, the landowners money, the farmer themselves are making money, the land is taking care of itself, it's being productive, going back to Dell with the regenerative agriculture, all those different things are lining up to make it a successful tract of land.
So there's a lot of moving pieces.
There's a tremendous amount of moving pieces, and getting that sequence of events in order is crucial to making it all line up and work properly.
All right.
So, what would you say to students with an interest in forestry management or farmland management as a potential career?
I would highly encourage anybody to go after it and find the one thing that motivates you in that business. Find the one thing that you really excel at and you really love and that you enjoy a lot, and really pursue that. Go after it. And also, don't be afraid to fail in it as well. I can look back on several times in my career. There have been several things that have been failures and have been great learning tools from it to go forward. So be motivated. Don't be afraid to fail, and always, stretch out further.
So can you kind of generally describe your business model?
Sure. So our business model on the ag side is, we work, privately with landowners on a consulting basis, or on the real estate side with acquisitions on a commission base. And, we'll either charge hourly or a fixed fee, or, like I said, a commission for the work that we do. All those things are worked out with each client, and we talk to them. We structure our contract so that way everybody knows what's going on, and then we go implement those things.
So in general, why'd you come to Dell? What brought you here?
What brought me to John Dell today? So Dr. Cowan and I have known each other for quite a while now, and we got to reconnect a few weeks ago at one meeting, and he invited me to come one day and just see what all you guys were doing out here. And I really wanted to experience that, since this is such a unique place that you guys have here, one of the only governor schools for agriculture that's out there. And so I was really enthusiastic about it. And I really wanted to get out here and see it, just wanted to experience it, wanted to be with you guys and talk with you and share my experience in agriculture that can, hopefully help encourage some folks that want to continue to pursue in that career.
So how's your time at Dell been? It's
been great so far. I've got a little tour of the campus, got to talk to one class, got to meet some of your classmates. I've thoroughly enjoyed it so far. I can't wait to see some of the farm and just see some of the different activities that are going on. You guys have got a really, really special place here, and I'm excited to get to continue to see it and talk some more with y'all.
Oh, there really is nothing else like it.
There's not.
It's so unique. I love every day here, and no day is like the next. We're always doing something fun around here. So
that is definitely visible, without a doubt.
And that will conclude this episode of Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water. Thanks again to our guest, Brandon DuRANT of American Forest Management. My name is Dell Brockman. Thank you for watching. I hope you'll come back soon for another visit here at the farm at South Carolina Governor School for Agriculture at John Dell.
Carolina's Field, Forest, and Water, a closer look at agriculture in South Carolina, is a production of the student media team at the South Carolina Governor's School for Agriculture at John De La Howe. For more information on our school, visit our website at www.delahowe.sc.gov.